welcome to the show. This time it's going to be an episode with Sean and Kim Pastuch. They are two of our good friends from the East Coast, and it's pretty funny. They live directly on the opposite coast of us. They have 3 girls instead of 3 boys. Sean and I probably couldn't be more different in our approaches to certain things, but we also have some incredible similarities, and I think that they're a pretty fun, contrasting, complementary couple. And it was an absolute blast to talk to him. It was also really good to get to know Kim a lot better. She has some amazing perspective on things and some stories that I think you guys are going to absolutely love. So enjoy, and let's get into it. Welcome to the show, guys. Thank you so much for coming on. Why don't you go ahead and say who you are and where you're from and how many babies you have?
You know who we are and where we're from and how many babies we have.
Hi, we are Kim and Sean Pastuch, and we live in New York, and we have 3 little girls, 5, a 3, and about a 1.5.
Oh man, they're so close together.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
They're like the same age as yours.
No, you guys have some
Oaks
really
is nearly 8, dude.
Oaks will be 8 in a month.
Oh, single digits.
way off, way off base. They like
Dig it.
to spread their children out.
Yeah. Okay, so just you guys touched on postpartum depression, and my question to you, Kim, was: does this happen after each kid?
I think that's a great question, and I don't know. And I think with the first baby, for me, there was definitely some sadness because all of a sudden you're this adult who can do anything you want to. And then when we had Mackenzie, I was like, no one wants to be my friend. I now have a kid who's got to tag along. She's on a schedule. How do I be on a schedule? I'm stuck inside my house. I felt very stuck for a very long time. And I think that did make me sad, but I don't know if I would necessarily put that as like postpartum depression. I just think that's like first kid, new mom, your whole world just got rocked upside down, and trying to figure out like what normal is and identity. There was a lot that goes with, I think, that first kid. With our second, she was born in May, and that helped, having like a summertime baby. I think that helped out a lot. So I don't remember that, to be honest with you.
Which means it went well.
Yeah, so I think that one went well. And Mackenzie was a winter baby too. So like that, I think, plays in, especially in
That's number 1.
cold New York weather. And then baby 3, well, we also got pregnant with baby 3 when baby 2 was like 9 months old. So that was really fast for us. We weren't expecting that at all. Obviously we welcome her with open arms now, but it was a lot of change because by the time our third was born, we had 3 under 4. And that's a lot for us.
For anybody who is listening to this, you should learn 2 things from that. Number 1, I'm clearly irresistible. And number 2, if you don't remember the months after the baby, it wasn't that bad. But after the third kid, that was the one that, at least for me as the outsider, was clear that Kim was struggling with some stuff that was outside of her control, that really had nothing to do with nobody wants to be her friend right now, or she's a baby attached to her boob all the time. It was like there was one day that she came downstairs to the kitchen, and I remember this vividly. She just started crying. I'm like, okay, what's wrong? And she's like, I don't know, like things are going so well for us, and like it makes me feel guilty because like other people, it's not going as well for them, and like what are we doing for them, and it's just not right. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? And that is when I recognized that this was something outside of normal Kim just being sad that no one wants to hang out with her.
Yeah, I think I was crying because I was too happy. Like I was sad that I was happy. Like, what does that even mean? I just had every emotion that I was just feeling of like, I don't know. And I know there wasn't a lot of feeling, actually. I remember it being really closed off and really separated. Like it really felt like those depression commercials like nail it on the head if you've ever like experienced it. It is like this looming cloud, and it just feels really gray and cloudy, and you can't communicate over to like the other person. So it also felt like almost like there was like a big movie theater curtain that was mesh and it was gray. Like I could see through it and I knew what was going on around me, but I couldn't communicate and be a part of like that world, if that makes any sense.
Weird.
Yes.
If
Very weird.
if I can say something that might come across as strange to you guys and whoever's listening, I've never shared this with you before. I think Kim going through that was the best possible thing for our relationship.
Yes.
Because it was like the first time that it was clear I had to change the way I communicated with her in order for her to feel loved, to feel heard, to feel understood, and like just learning to understand that this is a phase that Kim is in, that she's going to have to work through on her own, that I have no authority to fix or intervene, and that it's my job to love her no matter what. That was the best thing that's ever happened to our relationship because it's carried through after, which has been great.
Right, so you didn't know that you needed to love her no matter what beforehand.
Right. Exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I'm glad you figured that out.
Beforehand, it was totally predicated on how often she allowed me to have sex with her.
And after that, you're like, wait a second. Gotcha.
So apart from you getting some growth, what else did you do about it? Like, was that it and that helped, or did you have to seek help, or how did you get through it?
Yeah. Well, I think to also backtrack, like once we realized like, wow, we just had 3 babies really quickly. Once I went back to my 6-week checkup, the doctor was like, let's talk birth control, like they typically do. And I finally was like, yes, let's talk birth control. Because I hadn't in the past, hence the 3 kids under 4. And so I chose a hormonal IUD, and I didn't realize how terrible that was for my body. And I was not expecting the reaction to go so adversely. So I think that it was 3 babies under 4, winter time. I now had this new crazy hormonal imbalance going on in my body. Also, I'm sure newly postpartum, like add everything. It was a perfect mix for this complete downward spiral. And I couldn't figure it out. And it took like this heaviness for like 2 months until I finally had some clarity of like, why, like this aha moment of like, what is going on with me? Why am I feeling this way? And then I realized, have I ever felt this way before? And I asked myself that question, and the answer was yes to that. And it was when I first started hormonal birth control, when I like first got to college, I had that same downward spiral where I was crying on my college dorm room floor, like, what is going on with me? And then I just kind of like this light bulb moment of, holy shit, I think it might be the IUD here. And I called my doctor the next day. I got it removed 2 days later. And that night I was a new person.
Well,
yeah. Okay. New person.
So first of all, if you ever had a conversation with somebody where something is wrong and they suggest like this wild, probably not going to work solution, and you're like in the moment, you're like, that's it. Like, that's definitely it. That's going to fix everything. That's how I felt when she told me, I think it might be my IUD. I was like, oh yeah, like has to be the thing. Like, please God, be the thing.
Right.
So
you're also grasping at straws of like, it's got to be the thing.
Yes.
You want it so badly to be the thing.
But after it came out, there's a level of like, is it actually different or is it optimism? And that's when Kim signed up with a coach. That's when you started working with Natalie.
Yeah.
Who you can talk more about what she did with you than I can.
Yeah. So like, it lifted the veil. It lifted like that cloud of heaviness off immediately. So the cloud was lifted, but I was now just like further and further down like a hole, basically. And so it was still this amount of work that I didn't realize that I had to do for myself, of discovering who I am and finding like my self-worth and things that I have lost in motherhood, and losing like my personal identity and how to deal with situations and anxiety. I mean, I could go on the list that I felt like I was so down this hole and I didn't know how to climb out of it now. And that's when we kind of talked over some, like he was great. Like he took me to the level that, that he could be supportive for me. But as far as giving me the tool set again and to learn how to do that, that's where I sought out help. So I first started seeing a postpartum therapist that was not helpful for me. But I think that's a really good starting place possibly for some people. I think maybe it just wasn't, that particular counselor wasn't the right fit. And then I also went back to my my OBGYN and said how bad this was feeling. So he prescribed me medicine. So we thought about that option as well, just because I wanted.
I hated that option.
I wanted something so immediate that like I just want to be better now. Give me everything. So I wanted to also have it as a choice, as something that I could choose. Like if it got to a point where I wanted it to go down that route, I had it in my physical possession and I could make that choice to do it. And I know that is something that's really personal, and some people that might completely work for. I think I actually still have the bottle like in our medicine cabinet.
Yes.
And I didn't open it because I wanted to give the other things a shot first, of like, I wanted to work with a therapist. I hired a coach to help me work on the things that I didn't even know that I needed to work on. But she was like a magician, pulling things out of like every week there was like new assignments for me to do, and the amount of crying that I did, good crying, to like open up a lot of these like vulnerable points that were just, I think, suppressed for a really long time. Just adding to this level of depression that I didn't know was there.
Yeah. Crazy.
That was a lot. Sorry.
Yeah.
That was a lot headed your way.
I had that worry that like the coach was going to uncover some stuff and she was going to be like, you need to repair your relationship with your husband. He's oppressive. And I'm like, oh my God, what is this going to do to me? But it didn't happen, which is great news.
Yeah, she's going through all this depression, and you're like, oh, what does that mean for me? Like, yeah, oh, what about me? Oh, shit.
Well, speaking about you, Sean, I know that like one of your kind of, well, I don't know if it's a struggle, but you do talk a lot about like on social media about your work-life balance. And I think it's something in the past that maybe you didn't have a handle on, and now you feel like you have a handle on. Or do you? I don't know. Maybe Kim can let us know.
I want to know what work-life balance means to him.
Yeah, that's what
I'm curious.
Right,
like,
that's what I was going to get to. Like, what does that mean to you? Because I know that you've also said in the past, like,
I hate my kids.
No. I love my kids. Like 90 minutes a day. I love my kids.
Like
90 minutes?
That's plenty. I'm a super present for 90 minutes.
Okay.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
So yeah, talk about that. Talk about the 90 minutes that you're with them.
So I'll put it to you this way. I am very, very happy to be working on solving big problems. I love my career. I love it. I love it. I love it. I don't love it more than my wife or my kids, because in a big way, there would never be an ultimatum of choose one or the other. Like Kim would never put to me, you need to pick one, right? Which makes me want to provide as much love for her and the kids as I possibly can. So we've done a lot of really quality and valuable communication around, what makes her feel loved. And then it goes down to like, well, she really values quality time with me. Well, how do we define quality time? Right? Like is going for a walk quality time? Do we have to be having important conversations for it to be quality time? Is watching a movie together quality time? What is quality time? Because honestly, I don't need very much to know that she loves me. And
just a nice little background.
a little back scratch, every once in a while, some sex, we're good. But for me, that means that like I could and would, my default would be work an 80-hour week and come home and say hi on the weekends. That would be the easiest way for me to live. So what I have learned is that I have to trade money, authority, and some opportunities at work for the opportunities to have a solid relationship with my life and my family. Does that make sense? Like instead of me working on 7 things, it's forced me to be a more efficient business person and hire people for whom that takes less time. That means I haven't taken a pay raise since 2018? Something like that, despite the fact that our company has more than doubled every year since then. And it's been good because it's created necessary structure in business. It makes me say no to more things that I don't need to do that would just make me busy and not productive. And it makes me very discerning about things I say yes to.
So 90 minutes a day sounds like nothing to me. Like, and it sounds like literally not, like you and I are reverse. If I could work 90 minutes a day and spend the rest of my time with my family, that's how I'm going to be the happiest. And I'm going to work real hard, real focused for that 90 minutes, you know? I'm going to put my all into it. But like the idea of spending that much time away from my family makes me terrified, you know? Like absolutely horrified. Like, what am I here on this planet to do? Like my actions in business are going to disappear the second I'm dead. You know, like whereas like the legacy of my direct lineage is going to be incredibly impacted for years to come. So when I hear 90 minutes, I hear nothing, which is kind of, and I'm not saying that I don't think you're a loving parent. I just, that's hard for me to wrap my head around.
I get it. What I would say to you is this. First of all, it's 90 minutes during the week, full attention on the weekends. But now going back to the week, for me, I don't want my legacy in business to go away the moment that I die, right? And I want there to be an opportunity for my kids to learn about impact over income and for income through the way that I work. I want my daughters to look for men who treat their wives the way that I treat mine. And to me, the 90 minutes is the way that my brain works. After that, I'm like, what do you want to talk about? Like, you're 5. I don't know what to say to you. And that's my reality. And on the weekends, we actually sat down and Kim made me the 4th kid and built out our activity chart for the weekend so that I would feel like we were accomplishing things on both days. Like Saturday morning, we're going to do this until this time. Then we're going to do this. Then we're going to do this. And I was like, okay, I can do the weekend now. It's not stressful anymore.
Yeah, once I realized he needed structure at home too, like, 'cause he plans out his structure in the office and he thrives off of that like schedule. The weekends were just like this open-ended hangout session. And especially now with like Corona times when not that many things are going on outside and you can go to that many places, he was like bouncing off the walls because there was no plan. And then, you know, when there's no plan with children, it is like, is it nap time? Is it bedtime? Can I get rid of these kids? Like, you kind of start to go crazy a bit. And then, so I realized like we needed to kind of do some block scheduling of like, okay, from when they wake up for breakfast to lunchtime, we've got this like nice little morning block that we can do whatever activity. And then we've got lunch and nap zone from like 12 to 3. And then we have another afternoon session from like 3 to 6 when we have to start getting bedtime. So there's really only kind of 2 things that we need to fill in those gaps, like a morning thing to do and an afternoon thing to do. And once I kind of presented those options, that made his like brain kind of be like, okay, this is a lot more easier to kind of get through our day, and planning some fun things in those spots rather than this like open-ended, you know, free for all, because then that's the spiral that gets really crazy. Or at least it does in our house. I don't know. I can't speak for every parent and every other household, but like for us, that's kind of what goes on for us.
I guess my question is, so it's really hard for you to just be with yourself, is it? No, I mean, wait, let me rephrase that. Not with yourself, but with your own thoughts, like other than work-related things.
No, I like being with my own thoughts and with myself. It's when I have to share my attention with others. Like we have a mutual friend in Michael Cashew and a G Cashew. And I've reached out to Mike and been like, dude, how do you make friends? I legitimately don't know how to make friends. Because when I talk to people, if they don't do something in their life that is obviously better than I do it in mine, I find it very difficult to spend any time with them or to talk to them, right? Like, you guys are a great example. You have fun way better than I do. You go with the flow way better than I do. And that's admirable, right? And it makes me want to spend more time talking to you guys and leeching that knowledge from you guys so that I can become closer to that. When I go to things like the daddy-daughter dance at school, which I love, by the way. I love that kind of stuff, and we don't miss any of it. And a father comes over, he's like, oh man, like, time does this end? I'm like, why'd you have kids? You suck. So I enjoy being with myself. I enjoy being with my kids. I struggle when there's no purpose to the engagement because the kids want to be entertained, which is natural. They're kids. And I'm not like, it's not my steady state. It's difficult for me to do that.
So just so you know, I'm not really a go with the flow kind of person. That is something that I've had to learn because
I'm an aggressively go with the flow kind of person.
And so I understand the way you feel when there's no, when the structured time is unstructured, I'm okay because I'm like, well, we've got structured, unstructured time. I can deal with it. But when it's just like the whole open-ended day, I know how you feel about getting a little like anxious about what's going to happen next. But I will say that I have like having Pat being an aggressive go with the flow person, like it's taught me to just be uncomfortable in those moments.
Just be uncomfortable.
And kind of just learn like that Pat's also very good at being present. And I like watch him, you know, we have so much going on and yet he will just zone out on all that and he can just kind of be present with the kids, with me, whatever the situation. And I'm busy thinking like, how can he not be thinking about the 20 videos he needs to record in like less than 30 minutes? You know, why isn't he trying to talk about that?
Skill. It's a masterful skill. Just section off that part of the brain and go, can be done.
But I just wonder if like, I mean, I'm not telling you to do anything differently. I'm just curious because I am similar to you. I don't think I'm as like on the same spectrum as you, but I feel you, and I just wonder like if you've ever tried to just like, all right, this is what's happening. We're just gonna be.
Yes, I've tried, and I can do it, but there's nothing about it that I enjoy. Nothing. And you know, like when I talk about you going with the flow, Taz, what I'm more talking about is like, oh, Arrow just fell off the top of that chair. Want to go check on him? Like me, I'm like, if you fall off that chair and you cry, I'm gonna lose my shit. So you might fall off the chair, right? But it's like, what would Taz do? Would she even say anything? What would she do? So that's the flow I'm talking about as it pertains to you specifically. You said something else that I wanted to touch on, and I forgot what it was. So maybe it will come back.
Kim, what's your? I mean, because you're obviously not like Sean, because you know there's more than 90 minutes in a day, and the kids have to be with someone. So what is your? I mean, what's your perspective on all this? What type of a person are you? I'm curious.
Before you answer, what I was remembering was we live at the beach. And Kim and I are beach people. Kim and the kids have basically beat the beach out of me. Like to be able to have to like load up the shopping cart with 70 items. And then we get to the beach and it's like I'm the paid help dragging this shit through the sand. And then we get to the beach and the kids are crying. One, because they have water in their eyes. One, because there's sand on their feet. and the other because there's probably sand in her diaper and in her vagina. I'm just like, this isn't fun. This is not fun. I'd rather stay home. That's what I was going to say. That's our just be moment. Kim, take it from here.
And I look at it as, okay, this fills our morning time slot. Let's get out of the house and go do something. And by the time like we get down there, set it all up, it's like time to go back home again. So like, it's great. We just kind of explored nature in a little bit. And
Great.
And it fills our chunk.
I took the other day, Kim's mom was in town. And on Saturday morning, her mom was like, hey, would it be okay if Kim and me went to breakfast? I'm like, I know what that means. It means, can you watch the kids all day by yourself? Sure, no problem. I used to call that babysitting. Kim was like, that's called parenting. So I took the kids to a playground. And we get to the playground and I'm like, everyone went potty. Like everything is set. I did a great job. We get to this playground and our middle kid is like, Daddy, yeah, I gotta go poop. I'm like, really? Now? Yeah. So I'm like, okay. So I have to grab the little one who's now screaming, right? And go to the bathroom with the middle one. We open the bathroom door and the smell of hot piss just overwhelmed you. And I'm like, I'm gonna have to wipe her butt, let this other one go, and touch whatever's in this room, right? And I'm gagging. It smelled so bad, I'm gagging. And then finally, the middle one who had to poop, she turns to me, she goes, Daddy, it really stinks in here. I'm like, yeah, it does. Do you want to hold it and go home? She's like, I'll hold it. Like, good. And then we just got in the stroller and sprinted home. I'm like, that was literally my worst nightmare in a moment.
And that literally is parenting.
Right.
Like, I think that's where he does it.
That happens.
I'm like, so this morning I woke up at like 6 a.m. and was like, let me just throw the kids in the car and head down to the beach by myself with all three. And spent the day on the beach driving around. We ate a breakfast burrito, kind of dropped it, split it. It didn't quite work out. Watched the surf for a bit.
How much stuff did you bring to the beach, Pat?
No, we've let go of all that
Yeah,
sort of
I let go of all that.
We
I-
just take towels, wetsuits, and one little snack now. And
Yeah.
they're like, I'm hungry. I'm like, well, we've got this one jerky stick, and if we finish it, then that's it.
Yeah, man. With like there are times where you pack up all the stuff and go, but 90% of the time it's like dig a hole with your hand, man. Like you'll figure it out. Like and you know what's funny is like 90% of the time, all three of our kids are like, we don't want to do it. We don't want to do it. We don't want to do it. And then we get there and they love it. It's like without fail, we just have to do it because they're gonna bitch nonstop.
That's it. You just have to do it.
No, that I would do that all the time.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, do you have the tent? What about the
You're
umbrella?
there the whole day. Though.
Tent, umbrella.
No,
Like,
one of them. If you're there the whole
You
day,
need both. You need a tent
no,
and an
don't
umbrella.
bring both.
You brought both. The green tent. She got a new green tent. Like the corners get sand.
Oh,
They're
it's
not
awesome.
even
It's
pulled.
like a whole canopy thing.
And the
It's
middle has a
great.
pole.
Oh no, I know which one you're talking about. I know which one you're talking about. They're great. The half tent. That's like the not quite a full one.
Yeah. So I'm
Great.
like, I get to the beach because I'm clearly like 200 yards behind, lugging a huge.
I took everything down by myself with two kids and set up an
Oh,
entire
yeah.
canal.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I don't know what he's talking about.
You're right. I didn't have anything there.
You didn't have anything.
I was just buying my time.
Yeah.
And I get to the beach. I'm like, I don't know where Kim. I don't know where Kim is. Where's Kim? I'm like, whose tent is she talking? Like, whose tent is that? She must have made a new friend. I'm like, whose tent is that? She's like, it's ours. I'm like, oh great, another thing.
I do that a lot though. I come home with like all these just new things. He's like, who's that? I was like, oh, it's ours. He's like, what? I was like, we needed it.
Mm-hmm.
You needed it for sure.
Okay, so Kim, Pat's question was, how do you feel about like the big picture of you spending the 23 hours of the day with the kids? And is there like, so you feel no resentment towards Sean?
Oh no, there's resentment. There's I know who he is. So it's hard. I can't fault him for whom he is. It's something that I've come to acknowledge and understand more about him. But I can't force him into something that, and who he's not. I wish it was more hands-on, more more than 90 minutes hands-on. Like I want a partnership. I want I'm very big on like things being equal.
Fair.
I'm fair.
Fair is the word.
So sometimes fair and equal, it's not a lot of the time. So like that's just, it's something that I just kind of have to sit with and own a little bit. So I try to figure out, okay, how can this be more fair for me? What can he do instead? Possibly, like I hate to cook. So that 100%, that's on him. And so I hope that's maybe fair in his part. So like there are some trade-off moments of some things, but I would say a lot of like the childcare stuff definitely falls into my lap. A lot. And the other part, I mean, we worked well to hire a nanny, and she's amazing. And she takes a lot also off of our plate sometimes too. So that way, like she's home with the kids now, so we can have date night and talk to you guys. And she's there during the day, so we actually have time to like be people and being able to kind of recharge our buckets too and fill up ourselves. So that way we are able to be present for our kids more, and we're not completely drained.
Yeah. When I talk about 90 minutes, it's not like I actually only spend 90 minutes, right? I spend the moment that I wake up. I don't know if you guys wake
45.
up. No, like, do you wake up at like a similar alarm clock to me? Like a 5-year-old's face, 6 inches from yours, staring at you to be like, are you still sleeping? And then when you wake up,
Out of curiosity, what time is that for you? Just
about 7.
7:30.
Oh.
So if we get to 7:30, that's
4:45.
great. What?
45.
4:45.
4:45.
That's early.
Oh God, I'm sorry.
But I just get up and work, and then I have to throw it at Pat. And I try and give Pat like until 5:30 to sleep in.
And I'm like a midnight guy, so I'm like up at midnight looking on Craigslist for tools. And so I'll go to bed at like midnight, and all of a sudden I'm like grinding myself out to take the baby and drink some coffee. She puts coffee in my hand though, so it's okay.
That's good.
We've tried to invest in like the toddler clocks, the okay to wake ones. We tell our middle one shares the same wall as us. She gets up the earliest, and so her latest thing is like she will scream at the top of her lungs, "Papi, mommy!" Like just
She demands to be let out.
Yeah, and then I stupidly told her to share the same wall. I was like, oh, just like knock on the wall instead of screaming. I taught her that it was dead. So now we get this like, I'm like, oh, for 30 minutes. Cause like her clock is supposed to like turn yellow, which means like the sun, like you can come out now at 7:30. I'm gonna do that on purpose to try to like spread it out. So she's locked in there until we go in. But there's like, you can't really sleep for 30 extra minutes when there's like banging on the wall or screaming. And then she wakes up the middle one, the oldest one, and then she walks into our room like, Mom, Andy woke me up again.
Mm-hmm.
And she's all cranky. And like, that's just how our mornings start.
Well, so, and then the thing is this, right? So now somebody has to cook breakfast and somebody has to get the kids up.
Right.
We could do like, I just grab kids and make it work. Or, and we get like overcooked eggs for breakfast. Or I could make a nice gourmet breakfast and she can take care of the kids.
It's true.
And it can be a great morning.
So you don't think that you're training your daughters to like look for a man who ignores them 90% of the time and then spends an hour and a half with them per day? When you say when you say okay.
No.
Just straight for the throat.
He said he wanted his daughters to look for the type of woman. Like,
so no, I'll tell you why. It's not like I actually spend more like 2.5 hours a day than 90 minutes, which is still not a ton of time, but 2.5 hours because they go to bed fairly early and I'm up with them in the morning and then with them at night. And then all weekend we're together. What I enjoy most about parenting is coaching. Like I really like coaching the kids. So for example, on Saturday, our oldest had to go to the eye doctor. She has glasses. Last time we went to the eye doctor, it was a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu match. I won, but she wasn't happy about it. Like all the measuring and whatnot, I was holding her in place for it. It was traumatic. Yeah. So this time it was, how can we change her mindset so that the doctor's appointment goes really well. And I very much enjoy that part of raising kids, right? Of like actually working through. I'm very, very patient and deliberate in those conversations because I think they bring huge value.
And he's really good at it.
I never tell the kids, no, I'm too tired for anything. It doesn't matter. I'm available. If I'm around, I'm available to do it. It's when I'm home, totally present. When I'm not home, I'm not available at all. If they called, obviously I take the call. But I don't think I'm teaching them to understand that it's good to not be around very much. What I'm trying to teach them is that when you are around, it's important that you're there.
I think that's really admirable with how you do it, and I do believe that you're, because like Taz says, she really appreciates me being present, but it's like I find myself reflecting on my own presence and noting that because of the sheer volume of time I'm around, it's like there's many times that I feel like I'm not present, and I really hate on myself for that. So I think that and I definitely feel like when I spend time away and come back, it's much easier to be present, like you're saying. So I admire your focus on that and your commitment to being very present while you're with your kids. And it sounds like that's a very intentional thing. And I like heckling you, so I'm going to heckle you. But I do.
I can take heckling. I mean, a few, like, what was it, like 3 weeks ago? I found a pair of ear pods, whatever the hell they're called, and I wore them like once to listen to music while I was cooking. And the oldest kid was doing something, so it wasn't like I didn't want to be in the room with her, like listening to something else and pretending to be there for her. And then a day later or 2 days later, I said something to her, and she's like, "Oh, hold on 1 second, Daddy. Let me take out my ear pod," and like pretended to take out an ear pod. And so I immediately was like, "I'm never wearing these in the house again, ever."
I yesterday worked for 10 hours on my van with headphones on the entire time while my kids were running around. So that's a very common occurrence, to the point where my kids joke around and they'll find pairs of headphones and they'll put them on and they'll run around and do work, because that's what I do at my house. So it's literally the flip side of that, of like, that's how I escape, because I'm still there, but I'm going to put my headphones on because that's what I'm doing right now. So it's interesting. I love the fact that you're no longer ever going to do that, because that's your time with them. And I love, it's fun.
There's simple stuff to that all the time. Like I haven't done a good job of getting rid of my phone. Right. So
me too.
So what still bothers me about my presence is that they're like, even in the morning, like I know people say like, you shouldn't check your phone in the morning. Don't check your email in the morning. Like, cool. That's how you live your life. I enjoy checking my email in the morning. I like scrolling through stuff from that. It gives me pleasure. So I do it. I hate when my kid comes in the room and I have my phone.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, the first thing that she sees is that this is my priority. So that's something that I'm trying to work through how to do a better job of. But like when she'll be talking to me on my phone, I try to be present enough to say, right now, Daddy is doing something. Give me 1 moment and I will give you all the attention that you deserve. And then I put the phone away, look at her, and she understands that now I'm giving her all the attention instead of like splitting it between her and this device.
There's been times too where like I'll have my phone and she'll call me out on it. She's like, "Mom, can you just put your phone down?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, I just chose my phone over my own kid. Like, what is wrong with me right now?" And I like, it makes me feel like terrible. And I know I have to do a better job too.
Yeah, it's called addiction. It's bad. We all have it in some form. I think you've kind of like how you've expanded on that, Sean. Like even what Pat said, like the being present. At the start, it sounds like you're spending an hour and a half with your kids, but I think it's very, very intentional, like Pat said. And I think that just if we had to stop this conversation halfway through, people probably would have been like, "Who is this guy? Like, who does he think he is?" Like, you said to that other guy, like, "Why do you have kids?" And some people probably think, "Well, why does this guy have kids if he's only going to spend this amount of time with them?" But I think, like all the things that you're doing to try and be a better person, and you recognize you have the same guilt that all parents do, like with their phones and, you know, not spending enough quality time. And so, yeah, I think I'm just acknowledging like the second half here, and I think it's really great that you can acknowledge your limit with being with your kids and making the time worthwhile. I think that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say this, you know, it's at risk of using comparison as a measure of anything. I wonder how many parents actually spend 90 minutes with their kids. They might be in the same room, but are they actually spending 90 minutes with their kids? Do they go to any school event at all? Like, if there's a school event, my calendar is cleared. I'm there. If there's a dance, my calendar is cleared. I'm there. Anything that is of any level of importance, I'm there. And I think that the presence is just as important as the quantity of time. I cut you off. I apologize.
No, I think you bring up a valid point, but I think the other point to also think about, because I know that I guess people listen to this, like, again, 90 minutes. Right now I'm on summer mode. I'm a teacher, so I'm home. He has an office that he actually travels to go to. And so once the fall starts back up, I'm going to be working again, and I'm also going to be out of the house. So my time to see my children Monday through Friday is really only when I get home. And that's maybe from 5 o'clock to 7:30 possibly. And I'm only there for like that small chunk of change. So I think it sounds so little when you say like a 90, and not you, but like in general, when we say 90 minutes of time. But then for any like working parent who go out of the house to work, their time is so little anyway. So it's really how well are you using that time that you have with your kids to the best that you possibly can. And you've also set up your schedule too. Like, I mean, yes, you work out of the office, but you've structured a morning for yourself to give you a lot of home time.
Mm-hmm.
So they physically see you home a lot, which is, I think, really awesome, because I'm out of the house so darn early, the normal time. So like, I'm so thankful that he actually is physically able to be in the home where he is around to have breakfast with the kids if he wants to, or
I always have
things
breakfast
like
with the
that.
kids.
Yeah,
I'm not in the office till 10:15.
it's awesome that you've been able to
Yeah.
set up your schedule like that. And many people can't.
Beautiful. I think one thing I just wanted to hit on was, like, you said you loved the aspect of coaching your kids like through things, and it's interesting because, you know, I myself I think one of the things I'm good at is coaching. Like, that's what my profession is. It's what it's been for a long time. And the interesting thing is I hate coaching my kids, and to the point where, not hate, let me rephrase that. I think I'm incredibly ineffective at intentionally coaching my children. I think that I've almost given up on the idea of coaching them through specific things, and started to play into the fact that I'm just going to be how I want them to be, and hopefully they take that on board, because all of my intentional coaching has completely failed. And so it's like, I'll say, hey, do this, hey, do this, hey, do this. It's just like, never do it. But if I am a certain way, they end up being that way. So it's my coaching. It's just interesting to hear your other perspective of enjoying that process and actually having effect with it. Because my 3 little boys, they're just like, you can screw off, Dad. I'm not going to learn how to swing a baseball bat. Like, my method of figuring out how to coach my kids is like, or even figuring out how to play is like, hey, I found all these rotten nectarines outside. You want to hit some rotten nectarines? And they'll be like, oh yeah, sure. So then they'll come out and they want to hit rotten nectarines. But if I was like, hey, let's go practice baseball, they'd be like, you know, like, there's no coaching that can happen.
I would push back against you saying that only because I've met your kids. And I think that it's easy to remember the things that you tried to coach them in that failed, and forget the things that you've coached them in that were successful because they seem benign, right? Like something as simple as, how often are your kids disrespectful? How often do your kids throw major temper tantrums that, you know, you just give them a lollipop to shut them up? I don't know the answers to those questions, but I didn't think that they were often. That's coaching. right? That takes what?
Sorry. No, I was gonna add on. And even and from just the little moments that we spent with you, like your kids have this innate ability to go out and try and do. And I say that in like this complete admiration for you guys of like that they've developed this almost like fearlessness to be brave, because ours struggle with that and like they're very timid. So like the coaching aspect, the first one is, yeah. So like to have him sit and try to like build up this confidence, your boys just see this and they just go and do. And you've built that by leading by example through you guys. And I'm sure obviously the coaching aspect that comes too. So I don't give yourself some credit on that one, because I think you guys deserve a lot of praise on that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I don't feel the same way as he does with that.
Yeah, I think she feels different. I just think I'm very effective with adults. Like, I can get almost any adult to... When it comes to human movement and physical activity, I can get nearly any adult to do anything I want in very short periods of time, as proven thousands of times over. But with children, I've found myself horribly ineffective, so I have resorted to just being who I am. But Taz apparently has a different perspective on that.
Well, I'm very stubborn and I don't like to be ineffective. So when things don't work with the kids, I will research and listen to things, read things, and then I'll try again. And if it still doesn't work, I'll just keep trying again until I find the right method. And all three of them are different, like you guys know. So yeah, I mean, it's probably like 10 tries to one that works, and Oaks is nearly 8. And I think I may have him sort of figured out. Like,
why'd you say it? You can't say it, and then it ruins it, and then all of a sudden he flips on his head. And he's...
But yeah, so I wouldn't say I'm a perfectionist, but I just like to be able to do things. Like, I'm going to do it. I just like, if I can't do it, I don't like to give up. I'm very persistent.
I, however, have no idea how to get him to do what I want. I mean...
Well, you know what I find interesting? You guys own a dog or no?
4.
Holy shit. You guys are brave. So I find that coaching the kids is a lot like training a dog. I know that sounds bad, but what I mean by that is like you can't teach the dog to sit when it's convenient for you. You have to plan to teach the dog to sit. With the kids, it's like, when are you going to set the time to intentionally coach the skill that you know that they either want to learn or that you know that they need to learn? I'm not talking about, you're going to learn how to swing a bat today, son. Like that's your value. That might not be your kids. But, let's talk about what to do when you get angry or frustrated. That's got to be something that, for me, I'm blocking 2 hours to coach that. Because it's drilled. Like, I forget the last thing we did with Mackenzie when it was like up in her room, and that was the end of it. But like, she used to, it's harder now because she's more cognitive, but she used to snap out of things that she was really upset about when I would say, what can you do? Like, I can do anything. That was it. She's out of it. But that was something that we drilled for like 2 hours in the bedroom one night until she had it.
Yeah, ours, well, Oaks, because he's the one, the oldest, but he, you can't talk to him for 2 hours. Like, there's probably about a 15-minute time limit on anything, and I know that now, so I don't ever try and go over it. And I think what Pat was, a lot of the stuff that we've read is definitely like modeling, and we see the kids modeling us, especially the older two, and like take anger or, resorting to, when you're angry, what happens? Like, in some situations, it's like Pat and I will look at each other and it's like, whoa, okay, that's exactly what I do, or you know why he did that, right? And it's like, yep, because that's what I do, so it's like, and then we've got to go back and be like, okay, well, let's try and undo this before he turns 18. So yeah, I think for you, that's a good strategy, just to like be a really good person.
I think for most people, being a really good person is a good strategy. Yeah. Well, I think it's unfair to go into parenting not saying I need to be different. I think a parent needs to. Most of parenting should be reflection upon self and figuring out how you're ineffectual in the world. Right. And I think that's the number one thing you can do is be like, how can I be better? Right. If you're failing to do that, you're just passing on your shit, and I think that's unfair. But that's my personal opinion.
I think that's really well said. Like from my experience needing to be a business leader, for the team that we have in our company, nothing has taught me better how to do that than being a parent. Nothing. It teaches you, it's a mirror. Like I remember when you were talking a while ago, like if you're screaming at your kids, you've done something wrong already. If you hit your kids, you don't know how to communicate. I remember you talking about those things, and I agree with you.
Yeah, that was an aggressive Instagram post that I made that there was a lot of conversations I had with people about. I think I effectively said, if you hit your kid, you are a poor communicator. And I just brought up a bunch of scenarios where in life other than parenting is it acceptable to just strike the other person when things are not going well. And it's not in business, not in really anything, but it's for some reason it's been acceptable with kids, which is interesting though, because have you ever listened to Jordan Peterson's stuff? No. Well, he's got this thing on minimum effective dose, but it's minimum effective force required to have a change. So you want to use the least amount of force required to have a change, and it was something that I heard and still don't agree with the taking it to a physical place. But it was you want to use the least amount of force to have the impact. And I believe that. I think that's great. What can you do to on the lowest amount of force to have something happen or change with your kids? But he escalated it far enough to where if it needs to be a flick on the head or something like that, where he's okay with that. And he said some kids need that. I don't think I've quite agree with that yet, but I also have 3 kids who don't respond to that. I even tried it. I was like, guys, if it takes it to the next level, and it didn't do anything, we taking it to the I'm like, guys, I'm gonna pinch you. You gonna get pinched, and it didn't. For my kids, that was ineffectual at best, and just made me feel like a jackass.
We have a friend who is a behaviorist, who has been a huge, huge, huge help to us, and she talks about if the kids are flipping out, and you respond. The next time that they want something, they're going to skip the warm-up to the flip out and go right to the flip out because they know that that's what works. The same thing is true the other way. If you hit your kid lightly and it gets a response, great. But next time you might have to hit the kid harder. And then next time you might have to hit the kid harder than that. And at a certain point, you're pulling the belt out. And it's just not valuable. And that left not that she had to intervene with me ripping the belt off, that wasn't the thing, but that it was a very impressionable moment for me to recognize that okay, how can I de-escalate?
Yeah, it's also a weird one too come later in the years. It's at what age does that stop? Also, is your authority over them only because of physical force, or is it because what's the patterning that you're setting into this kid, So it's definitely a lot of other stuff to think about where it's I don't think it needs to ever resort to that, personally. But
I agree.
yeah, we've had you guys for an hour. I thought it was fantastic. Is there anything you guys want to add about stuff that you've thought? Not add. I just thank you guys for coming on. If you have anything else, we should probably have another chat down the road just because that was short.
I would love to have
I
this
would love that.
Short, but...
It's been a long time to catch up with you guys, man.
Yeah, we can do it on air or off. But
Sure.
what I would say to anybody who's listening to this, I imagine that anybody who got this far either is a parent, wants to be a parent, or was
Thinks your voice is changing.
whatever, just loves you guys and hates me and wants to hear the end of this thing. But what I would say is the most valuable thing that I think I can say we have learned about our relationship as parents and as spouses is over communicate like over communicate, make sure that the other person understands by making them repeat that they understand, to make sure that they understand what you want them to. And I have my wife and then I have my kids. It's not the kids and then the wife. It's like, this is the person who's on my team. She comes first, then comes the kids. Otherwise, that's when you start to lose. At least that's when I've started to notice that it's like, okay, we're roommates, right? Like we're roommates doing this together. No, it's we love each other. Tell the kids we're going on a date. I want to come. Too bad. I love your mom, and you're going to bed.
I left the house. Sorry, I know this is what we're sorry. I left the house today. I was like, Mackenzie, I've got date night with Daddy tonight. She goes, why you gotta go on date night? I was like, we go on date night because we love each other. She goes, well, if you don't go on date night, is he not gonna love you anymore? And I was like, we need to go on date night. I gotta get out of the house.
Sure. So, Kim, what's your advice now that we've had his?
Oof. Oh, I don't know.
Well, how about we phrase it like this? We'll say if your daughters could if you could see your daughters taking on one trait that your husband has that you would love for them to have, what is it?
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's a great question. His ability to like, I guess a lot of like the mental coaching aspect stuff. I really admire how he does that with Mackenzie, because it is something that I know that I'm not good at. Like, I made him take her to the eye doctor's appointment because I knew that he was the better parent for the job that needed to get done. So a lot of the self-talk of just powering through things and working on something and being diligent and getting through the hard stuff. Don't just quit, keep on going. That's really impressive and inspiring. And I hope that my kids pick up on that, because they're not going to get that from me. Because I know that that's a weakness of mine. So he leads us in that. Me too. Like, he's a good leader for us.
Thanks, babe.
You're welcome. I'm a good manager. He's a good leader.
Vision, execute.
Yeah, that's true. Vision and execution. That's how we team up together.
That is similar to us in a way.
Yeah.
Although Sean and I couldn't be more different in so many ways. I think there's a lot of ways we're very similar, like the friends thing and all that stuff. But we can talk about that another time.
Yeah. No, look, you're right. Like, I can't grow facial hair anywhere near my eyeballs. They're totally different.
Totally different. I can go down. It's connecting to the chest hair. That's how we do.
Taz, you are one lucky lady.
Thank you guys so much. I'm going to stop the recording now.
Yeah, perfect.
I want to thank Sean and Kim for coming on. It was a fantastic episode. Those two have some awesome perspective on things, and I wish they lived a little bit closer to us so we could hang out with them a bit more. I hope you all enjoyed the episode, and until next time.